All right, everybody, this is Artsy Fartsy. I am the great Goonan, and we are here with Mr. Don Sill.
Hey, everybody.
Today we're going to talk about the 1990 movie Joe versus the Volcano, directed and written by John Patrick Shanley and starring Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan, among others, but those are the main characters. This is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's so incredibly unique. There's no movie like it. It is whimsical and silly and sometimes implausibly ridiculous, but ultimately I find it very moving and profound in a very strange way that only a strange, fantastical movie like this can do.
Yeah, not many movies can really get away with combining the silliness and absurdness of what they do, and then also have such depth and kind of message and lessons in this thing about life.
Surprisingly so. In the middle of this very weird movie is something that I always find touches me very deeply.
Yes, this movie definitely, and I know you're going to walk us through it, so I don't want to give away too much yet, but this movie, basically, it just, I think everybody feels the way Tom Hanks feels at some point, where they just want to, they just kind of disregard their life, and they're upset with the way life is going for them. But you have to embrace life also, and I think that's what this movie does. It kind of gives you like this kind of rebirth, if you will. But I want you to walk us through it like you normally do.
Well,
before I jump ahead.
Well, this is my favorite Tom Hanks movie, actually, and it's not nearly as popular as all the other stuff he's done. And it's my favorite Meg Ryan movie. I don't think Meg Ryan has ever given a better performance. She plays three different characters, totally different, totally fully realized characters. So let's go through it a little bit. So like I said, it's Joe versus the Volcano is about a guy named Joe Banks, who is a guy from Staten Island who works in this factory, this drudgy, gray, grim, muddy, disgusting factory that only has buzzing fluorescent lights in its gray and dull offices and everything. And his boss is this schmuck played great by Don Hedaya, who's always great in all those movies.
Yeah.
And he was great as Tortelli in Cheers and all that stuff. And his coworker is this woman played by Meg Ryan, who sort of is frumpy, but she's sort of a New Yorker type character, and doesn't think much of anything. She doesn't think much of him. He doesn't think much of her. Everybody kind of thinks of Joe as a schmuck or a sludge. And he is somebody, he's somebody who's always feels run down and sick. He's always sneezing. He always is wiping his nose. He's always going to doctors trying to figure out why he feels so run down and sick and crappy. And he never feels good about anything. Finally, he goes to a doctor played by Robert Stack, who tells him, you have this rare disease. He goes, what? You have this thing called a brain cloud. It's this tumor that's going right over your brain that's going to kill you within 6 months. He goes, oh my God, so that's why I feel this way. He goes, no, all your symptoms are psychosomatic. It's only because you come here for your psychosomatic symptoms that we happen to find that you have this terminal disease. And he's like, I knew it. So finally, since he realizes that his life is going to come to an end in 6 months, he goes to his job and he quits. He quits his job. He's disgusted. He says everybody is despicable. And he's sort of taking the bull by the horns all of a sudden because he's got nothing to lose. To hell with you, he says to his boss. And then he turns to the Meg Ryan character, his coworker. He goes, you want to go out with me? She's like, oh, okay. And she goes out with him. And they have a date, and everything's going along great, and they go back to his place, and it looks like they're going to, things are going to happen romantically, but he confesses to her, I have a disease, and I'm going to die in 6 months, and she becomes totally freaked out by that, and she goes away, and she can't deal with it, so he's left alone. He sees the day, but it didn't seize back, So the next day, somebody knocks on his door, and it is Lloyd Bridges, who plays the greatest wide-eyed kook you could ever see in any movie. He comes out of nowhere. He's a businessman, and he wants to buy this, I think it's called Boobaroo or Babaru. It's this mineral that's only available in this South Pacific island of Waponi Woo. Waponi Woo is a word that means island with a big volcano, and he needs this mineral to make his superconductors, because that's what he makes, whatever the hell a superconductor is, by the way. I don't know what that is. And he makes superconductors. He needs this mineral, and he needs to get it from the Waponis, and the Waponis refuse to give him the mineral because they're superstitious unless he can help him, because every like 100 years or 1,000 years they have to throw somebody into their volcano to appease the volcano god that's going to erupt and destroy their land, and that's what they believe. But all the Waponis are cowards. They won't volunteer to do it themselves, so they need someone to jump into the volcano. So he offers Joe Banks, he goes, look, I talked to your doctor. I know that you're going to die in 6 months anyway. Why don't you go out in style? I'll pay for everything. You could live like a king, but then we take you to the island of Waponi Woo in the Pacific, and you jump into the volcano. Good? He's like, okay, he'll do it.
Yeah.
Everything's going to be paid for. Now, I should point out that when we start to learn about Waponi Woo, this island of these natives, they are a strange island of natives that are like Polynesians, like Hawaiians, like those old classic movies where you think of natives, except for some reason they love and have access to orange soda. They love orange soda. They have orange soda cans everywhere. They love drinking orange soda. Everything is about orange soda. It doesn't make sense. It's not supposed to. So now Joe has all these credit cards given to him by Lloyd Bridges. He gets to do whatever he wants, spends a night in like a fancy Manhattan hotel, gets a limousine driver who drives him all around to buy things for the trip. The limousine driver is played by Ossie Davis, the great Ossie Davis. He drives him around, gets him the right tuxedos. He buys this luggage, this special airtight luggage that he buys for the trip, and he buys safari hats and different things. And he's a very lonely guy, though. He says to Ossie Davis, the limo driver, he goes, you want to have dinner with me? He goes, no, man, I got a family. I got a family. I got to go. He goes, look, you're going to be all right, man. You're going to be all right. He goes, all right. Well, then he goes on the plane and he winds up in Los Angeles. When he gets to Los Angeles, he's met by another woman, totally different person, but also played by Meg Ryan. She is one of the daughters of Lloyd Bridges, the business guy who made the deal with him. And she's supposed to take him around, set him up at a hotel, and then take him to the boat in the morning to go to the South Pacific. She is sort of a flighty, sort of ditzy type of character. She calls herself, she goes, don't tell me anything. I'm a flibbertigibbet, which is a very old expression that people don't use anymore, which basically means somebody who can't keep a secret and who's going to, tell everybody's business, a busybody who's going to tell everybody's business. She's also a wannabe artist who draws sort of this comic book type of art that you see in the restaurants where they eat and they go and they hang out. I think it's near the Hollywood sign, but it's somewhere on a mountain, and they hang out in a car, and she reveals how depressed she is and how she wants to maybe kill herself, and she was thinking about killing herself. And he's like, hey, some things take care of themselves, because he's thinking about his situation. And they don't hook up. They don't get romantic. There's something very sad about this particular girl, the way she feels. They agree to meet for breakfast the next day, and then she takes him to the boat. When they get to the boat, they see the crew of the boat, but one of the person in charge of taking him on the boat is this girl's sister, also played by Meg Ryan, and they don't seem to like each other. Hello, Patricia. Hello, and they both don't know where their father is. Have you seen Dad? No, I haven't seen Dad. We never know where our father is. So this last character played by Meg Ryan is the most Meg Ryan character. She doesn't have a fancy accent. She doesn't have different hair. She looks like the Meg Ryan we all know from that time period. And I might also add that we forget how popular Meg Ryan was, and how when Meg Ryan was doing what Meg Ryan does best, it's very easy to fall in love with Meg Ryan. And you do all over again in this movie. So
yes,
Now he gets on the boat. The boat is run by another lady played by Amanda Plummer, and there's a crew, and they go on the boat, and they seem to get along. Tom Hanks and this last lady, this last character played by Meg Ryan, and I think he tells her what's going on, that he's going to jump into the boat. She's a little freaked out by that, but they don't get to have much of a relationship at the moment because all of a sudden a typhoon hits the boat. Typhoon hits the boat, and the boat capsizes. The whole crew is thrown into the water, I guess gone forever and killed. He rescues Meg Ryan from the water, finds his airtight luggage, which pops out of the water. he gets ropes and ties all the luggage together, makes a raft out of it. She's passed out. He's okay. He has a little bit of like Pellegrino water, a fancy water that he's rationing off while they're sort of drifting off to sea to nowhere now. And of course, there's a very famous scene where he's playing the ukulele and he's trying to dance to the radio. And we all know those scenes. And he's rationing off the water and giving it to her while he's passed out. But here comes, after all this silliness and weirdness and strange characters, the most profound scene in the whole movie. I think you and I have talked about this in the past. Now, here's a man who always hated his life, always thought his life was a terrible trap, always thought his life was despicable, finds out after all this time that he's dying and has 6 months to live. And he never really appreciated his life. He never even thought of his life as a good thing. And now, as he's sort of in a daze of thirst and he doesn't know where life's going to lead him, he's floating along this raft. He looks up at the moon, which is a movie moon. It's the biggest moon you've ever seen. There is no moon like this. It is a big moon. And he looks up to it. He looks up to it as if it is a deity, as if it is God. And he says sort of weakly, thank you for my life. I never realized how big. And then he passes out. To me, that is one of the most profound scenes in all of cinema. And it has always moved me to tears when I see it. You talk about it for a second.
Yeah, that scene to me is the crux of everything that the movie is about. In my estimation. So like you said, the movie starts off with Hanks, who hates his job. He's miserable. He feels awful. It's very gray, like you said. And he doesn't really have much to live for, even if he was to live. And he always feels sick. And then I liked when Mr. Tortelli, I forget his name in the movie, but he tells him, he's like, nobody feels good. Yeah, nobody feels good, So basically, like, this is how life is. We all feel like shit. We're all miserable, and I think it, so you take that, and as the movie progresses through, you start to see he's willing to sacrifice his life for this volcano, just because he gets some, these credit cards, and he can just feel like he did something, but even though he was that down and out and ready to sacrifice his life and probably didn't think much of himself, he had this epiphany through it all. And when that moon comes up, because I think that we've all been there. We've all felt.
I like that you're calling it an epiphany. It is. I didn't think of it, but it is an epiphany. Yes. Yeah,
because it seems to all come together in his mind. And even though he has not had a great life, he's still grateful for it, and it is one of the moments in film that to me is one of the greatest scenes ever, in my opinion, because every single time I watch it, it brings me to tears, man, because I think we've all felt that way. We've all felt hopeless or worthless or sick, or like there's no light at the end of the tunnel, but then to still be grateful for it, to still say, I never realized how big it all is.
Well, I love that line.
It's just such a huge moment.
I love that line because he doesn't finish the sentence. So it can mean a lot of things. I never realized how big, meaning I never realized how big you are, God. I never realized how big you are, the world. I never realized how big my life is. I never realized how good it was. He comes to peace with himself in that moment,
Yeah.
And it's, by the way, I've described this plot so far. This movie moves very fast.
Yeah,
very
it moves fast, and it's so well done too. And what's a shame too is that this movie, when it first came out, like you said, 1990, it bombed. really
Well,
bad in the theaters.
it was a mild success. I think I was looking at it. It cost like about 12 some odd million and made like 39 million, which we would love to have any of that money.
Oh
But
yeah.
by Hollywood and studio standards, it's not a success. And I think it's pretty much still ignored. And it's ignored because you have to remember the time period that this movie comes into play, because this is Tom Hanks is not an Academy Award-winning actor who stars in serious dramas. He had just done Turner and Hooch, you know.
Right, yeah. He was just doing like all of those.
That was
movies.
his last movie, Turner and Hooch. After this, he does Bonfire of the Vanities, which is another flop. And Philadelphia and Forrest Gump are a few years away. Meg Ryan just did When Harry Met Sally, and the next movie she does is The Doors, where she's like a supporting character in that Oliver Stone movie, you know. And this is John Patrick Shanley's. I think it's only his second movie that he writes and directs. Before this, he had a huge success with Moonstruck, you know.
Right.
But he is basically a playwright who wrote Savage and Limbo and all these great plays and stuff like that. And years later, he writes and directs the movie version of his play Doubt with Meryl Streep and Philip Seymour Hoffman. I was in that, and I could tell you a story about meeting him. But
oh, nice. Yeah.
But just to put into perspective, that the people didn't automatically give Tom Hanks a pass as a great actor. They thought of him as a comic actor. He was in Big. He was in Turner and Hooch, and all, which, by the way, Turner and Hooch, excellent movie. But anyway, one of my favorite. But this is my favorite Tom Hanks movie because of the plot, because of the story, because of its ultimately profound nature, and it's my absolute favorite Meg Ryan movie. I don't think she ever shows a range like this where she plays three fully realized characters. I think maybe the first character is the least developed, the one from Staten Island, but the two sisters, the first one who's sort of tragic and sad, and this other one who's sort of like a take the world by the horns, frontiersman type of woman, is fully realized characters, very, very beautiful. But I don't want to get too far off this. I want to go back to the plot.
Yeah. And I do agree with you, though, about Meg Ryan. I think it was probably her acting-wise, definitely her best film. And I also think, when you think about this movie and you put it back under the microscope, I don't know who won Best Actress that year or Best Supporting Actress that year, but Meg Ryan should have at least been nominated for that movie, because she did play three unique roles, like you said. She was really great. Each character was completely different accent, different walk, everything.
Well, the lady from Staten Island, the first character, has brown eyes and brown hair. Meg Ryan has blue eyes. The second character has almost reddish type of hair, sort of almost Lucy type of hair, and then the last character is her.
Was like Meg Ryan, right? Yeah.
Like her, yeah. So there is this profound moment where he looks at the moon and he looks at his life and he sees his life and he passes out. When they wake up, this raft made of luggage is floating towards Waponi Woo. They actually wound up at the right location. They wound up on the island. So all these Waponi Woos are coming out in their canoes to welcome in. Waponi Woo! And of course, they're dressed in their native garb. They look like Polynesians. They look like people from the original King Kong. They look like, except they're not black, but they look like, they look like native type of people, except all over their body is also cans of orange soda. Like crushed cans of orange soda that they already drank all over the place. So they all come out to see him, and this one native comes out and says, "Are you Joe?" And he goes, "Yeah." They go, "Whoa!" He goes, "Are you Joe? Are you Joe Banks?" He goes, "Yeah." They go, "Whoa!" Now that guy is an uncredited, not famous yet, Nathan Lane.
That's right.
That's Nathan Lane.
He wasn't credited in that, huh? That's great.
Well, he's not known yet. This is 1990. He's not famous yet. So probably in the credits, but he's not famous. So they go.
But nobody knows, right? Yeah.
They take him to the island, and they meet the chief of the Waponis, played by Abe Vigoda.
It's just classic.
Who makes no attempt to sound like a native. He sounds like Abe Vigoda. He sounds like Tessio from The Godfather. He's like, "Oh, do you agree to jump into the woo?" He's like, yeah. He's like, okay. The next thing you know, they take the Meg Ryan, they take Tom Hanks separately to be made up and made nice and bathed and everything. And there's this whole sequence, da da da, rum, bum, 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 where they're all treating Meg Ryan really nice, and they're doing weird things to Tom Hanks. They're throwing an octopus on his head, a squid. He's trying, they're putting bananas. They're squishing bananas onto his hair to make him nice and everything. Okay. So, a lot of stuff has happened, and this movie's not that long. If you think about it, they went all the way across the world. Now they go to the ceremony where they're going to jump into the volcano. He's ready to go into the volcano. Meg Ryan says, you can't go into the volcano. I love you. I love you so much. I love you. He goes, I love you too. But the timing's bad. I got to go. He's ready to go to the volcano. What are you doing? You're going to go? I said, I love you. Look, I got to jump in the volcano. I said so. He goes, well, Chief, he says to Abe Vigoda, will you marry us before he jumps in the volcano? Okay. He goes, will you? You're married. That's it.
Best ceremony ever.
Best ceremony ever. So he's going to jump into the volcano. They have a whole little scene. Why do you have to jump? Why do you have to do this? I have to do it. I said I would do it. She goes, well, screw it. I love you. I'm going to jump in with you. This is amazing. Now, I'm going to tell you something. I don't care how much I love somebody. If they're jumping into a volcano, they're going alone. But she says she's going to jump in with them. So they jump in together. And this is where the most fantastical thing happens. They jump into the volcano together. They agree. The volcano rejects them. Pops them right out of the volcano. They go flying into the air. The volcano will not take them. And I guess the Waponis were right. It did not calm down the volcano. The volcano erupts. The island falls into the ocean. Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks are in the water again. They're stuck in the ocean. The luggage pops up again. Airtight luggage. He goes, get it. They tie it together. They're safe on the luggage again. But they see the island of Waponi Woo sink to the bottom of the ocean, and they hear all the Waponis. That's the end of them. That's the end of Abe Vigoda. That's the end of Nathan Lane. That's the end of the endless supply of orange soda. Where did they get the orange soda? I don't know. Anyway.
It's so weird.
So they're saved. They're fine. Everything's good. He goes, look, we're saved. He goes, look, I don't know. I have this brain cloud. I'm going to die. He goes, Meg Ryan says, brain cloud? I never heard of this brain cloud thing before. What are you talking about? So it says, well, this doctor. He goes, that's that doctor. That doctor is my father's doctor. He goes, my father sets you up. There's no brain cloud. You're not dying. He's like, I'm not? He's like, no, I'm not dying. He's like, I'm not dying. Oh. He goes, well, we are on this raft going to the middle of nowhere. He goes, ugh, Joe, it's always going to be something with you, isn't it? He goes, okay, well, wherever we go, whatever we do from now on, we take this luggage with us. They agree? You're frozen. There you are. They agree, and they float away, and it's the end. And that's the story. Who knows where they go and what happens with them? And that, to me, is one of the greatest movies I've ever seen. I love it even to this day. I recommend it to anybody who hasn't seen it to watch it. I think if you're not moved by it, then you don't really know what good filmmaking, good acting, good directing, good exposition and everything is about. And if you've dismissed it in the past, you should definitely rewatch it. Like I said, my favorite Tom Hanks movie, and that's hard to do because I like a lot of Tom Hanks movies.
Tom Hanks is great, made a lot of great movies. This is definitely in my top 5. It might be my favorite Tom Hanks movie also. I think it does hold up, too. It does stand the test of time. If you do watch it now, you will like it and enjoy it. And it's not going to feel dated or old or anything. It holds up. It's really good. It's like I said, it's quirky, but it's deep. And if anything, you're going to get out of it 2 things. 1, that life is good. And 2, you need to get good luggage because it could save you. No, I think that life is good, I think is the whole crux of it. And there's got to be some, some symbology or something or metaphors in that with the orange soda. I also think if you remember
Wait a minute.
The orange soda might mean something.
Why is the orange soda?
I don't know. Because you know why? Here's why I think it has to mean something, right? Because this, and I haven't really analyzed the movie the way I should, but I'm probably going to after this. But if you look at in the beginning when he first goes to work, that trail, is the logo, that kind of lightning bolt logo. And then when he's and so he walks that lightning bolt logo, then you see that the logo of the job is that logo. And then the lightning bolt that hits their boat that is that logo. So there's something to do with that lightning bolt. Has to mean something. I got to dig deeper into that too. I think it's something to do. I don't know. Is
the lightning bolt on the can of orange soda?
I don't know. We got to check this because I'm just putting this together. Yeah, because I think so. And then the three Meg Ryans. The fact that he runs into three women.
Volcano, orange soda.
I think the fact too that he runs into three women that are all the same Meg Ryan, right? I think that might mean something too, because I feel like
the type of soda they drink, it's a fake soda. It's called Jump Soda, and
Jump Soda.
It says drink Jump Soda, the official soft drink of the Waponi Woo.
That's great. Yeah. I wonder if there's a way, like eBay or something, where you could get a can of Jump Soda.
I think we have to. I think we should have had them right now.
I know. That would have been so awesome to have a Jump Soda with me right now.
That's great. You are correct. The Jump Soda has a lightning bolt on it.
There you go. See this? We're just uncovering this now, and we're uncovering this right now on Artsy Fartsy Live for you folks.
Only on Artsy Fartsy.
So that bolt, that lightning bolt, kind of carries through. I wonder if there's more imagery of that bolt, because I remember when I was watched it again a while ago, I realized that the lightning bolt was what hit the boat. So they show it, and you see for like a second, and I was like, oh damn, it's going back because the way the movie moves, there's depth to it, and like even the fact like the cloud tumor, I think all these things that there might be some extra layers to it. I have to investigate it more. And I wanted to do that today before this, but I just didn't.
Yes, that would have been good.
Yeah. But I think it's fun we're doing it now together too.
But so I would like to know, actually, what I really should have done, I didn't do this either, is see if there's any interviews with John Patrick Shanley talking about it. Because, Shanley wrote some of the greatest plays, and even Moonstruck is fantastical in a way. But this particular story can only be a movie, considering where they go and how far they travel. It couldn't be a play. I could see it being a musical, actually. I think they might be working on I think they did a musical adaptation of it. Not him, but I think like people independently did.
Like a live show?
Yeah. I think they did. And if you remember, there is a song that plays a theme, and it's a song with lyrics that plays throughout the movie that also plays at the end. And John Patrick Shanley wrote that. That's why is my heart marooned without you, da 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 da, da 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 da, which also plays during the ending credits. So, well, look, it's just it has everything that a movie should have. I've always think of Tom Hanks as sort of the new James Stewart. And the way It's a Wonderful Life is sort of this profound movie that people feel a lot about and want to know about. I think this movie is his It's a Wonderful Life.
It does have a lot of parallels to It's a Wonderful Life. It does, because the whole point of It's a Wonderful Life too is that life is good and that life is worth living and all of that. And then the saying here with Joe versus the Volcano, it's the same message and the same feelings come out of it. In fact, there is the scene with the moon in Wonderful Life too, when he catches the moon and pulls it in and all that. So I guess there are some parallels while you mentioned that. I think they're right in the same wheelhouse, those two movies.
The difference though, and what I like, I'm not actually, I hate to tell anybody watching, I'm not actually a fan of It's a Wonderful Life, but I pointed that out as a type of, I'm not, but it's a type of movie that has that meaning to people. But what this movie has that the other one doesn't is a very quirky silliness to it. I mean, there are so many weird characters that pop up. There are so many sort of characters that just show up and then die, like the Amanda Plummer character in the boat. I guess she just died. I guess they just don't come back. You know, and the courage to call this movie like it wasn't called My Life is So Big or something. It was called Joe versus the Volcano.
And I think that might have hurt it in the box office. I think, but I like you said, the almost unapologetic nature of it, of the title, and also the way they did the movie, where it was very quirky. It did have quirky characters. It sometimes silly, like you said, the Abe Vigoda, or he's hey, you gotta jump in the, he just Abe
well, how's
Vigoda.
about the whole Waponi Woo people? The fact that they like orange soda.
Yeah,
like there's nothing that really explains why they love orange soda so much and why it's plentiful there. And yet there's nothing else modern about their life.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. They still like living in huts and stuff, and it's very tropical over there.
Yet they must have refrigerators.
Yeah, they're drinking it warm. But I do like that they.
We don't drink orange soda warm. Even the Waponis will tell you that.
But I don't know of any other film, like you said. I don't know if any. I'm trying to think of any that even come close that could mix the quirkiness with that kind of depth and message.
Yeah.
Where it leaves you scratching your head at some moments, literally makes you cry in others, makes you laugh in others. Compassion. It's got so many ingredients in this movie that it stands out above any other in that regard. Like, I don't know any movie I could think of with that same mixture that did it successfully, like Joe versus the Volcano.
Right. It's a very unique movie that scores on all those levels. I think that a lot of credit has to be given to, obviously, Hanks and Meg Ryan, but really to the writing and directing of John Patrick Shanley, to be able to sort of put this gumbo together of all this stuff that still makes you totally believe it. And like the silliness, the quirkiness, the improbability of certain characters and situations don't take away from the ultimate humanity and message of it. And that's what's so great about it. And like I said, this is sort of a middle, in between. This is before Tom Hanks becomes the Academy Award-winning actor, sort of Hollywood royalty that we think of him. This is like I said, right after When Harry Met Sally, which is sort of I always call it's Annie Hall with a happy ending.
Right.
And for Meg Ryan, and then Meg Ryan does a series of other movies with Tom Hanks. She does Sleepless in Seattle only like 2 years later or 3 years later, and then
they become like
she does You Got Mail with him and stuff like that, which is another remake of another movie. But yeah, but this is I think it's their first one, and it's their best one. It's really their best one.
It is their best.
And John Patrick Shanley, like I said, he directs a couple of other movies, but mostly he becomes, for movies, a screenwriter. After this, he writes the screenplay for Alive. You remember that movie about the plane crash?
Oh yeah, with
the
cannibals. Yeah.
Yes, the cannibals.
He
right.
wrote. Yeah, wow.
He wrote the screenplay to Congo about the gorilla who does sign language. Amy, good, gorilla. I am Amy. So he has a hit and miss with certain things. And then, of course, later on, he does direct the movie version of his play Doubt with Meryl Streep, Amy Adams, and Philip Seymour Hoffman. And I was one of the many church parishioners in that movie because it takes place in an old church. And I remember I could tell you my interaction with John Patrick Shanley, which I should do now exclusively. So, in between shots, you go to craft services, which is where they have all the food and everything in between shots. And we're all dressed up like it's the early 1960s. I look impeccable, even more handsome than now. And John Patrick Shanley is a very tall, thin man who always looks friendly, actually, very friendly guy. And he was a very friendly guy. We meet, he and I, in craft services, two two geniuses together at last, and we have this exchange that, if it were recorded, would be included in the Library of Congress, just for artistic reasons. I remember I grabbed some Monterey Jack cheese and put it on a cracker, and he did too. And he went, it's spicy. And I said, yeah, I like spicy cheese. He goes, me too. The greatest exchange of two brilliant minds. He wrote Moonstruck. He wrote Doubt. I wrote Splatter with the Dancing Vaginas and Tune Into Goonan, where I sing about dancing vaginas. It's, who could possibly, and we're both Irish with Irish last names. Come on. He's from the Bronx. I'm from Brooklyn. We're practically in-laws now. Anyway, he does have
I do.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I wanted to add one more thing, if you want to put it in later or whatnot. But in the beginning of that film, there is a scene that kind of foreshadows a lot. It's when they're walking into that job, and they're walking down that.
And remember, they walk in the beginning to 16 tons. What do you get? Another day older and deeper in debt. Right.
Yeah. Great song. Tone is set. Everyone's kind of marching in to work, and they're all stomping on this little flower, like this little.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
And then Tom Hanks kind of gets down
saves the flower
and picks it up out of the stands. So I think that is a kind of a foreshadow for him and for his life. He was that crushed flower who later rises and stands tall.
It also shows you that where he is in that point of his life, that's the only thing that's growing there. That's the only little thing left of life in that environment that he's in, and he tries to salvage it almost as if he's salvaging himself. So yes, right. I agree. I totally agree. We're brilliant scholars.
Yeah, we should do a podcast about this stuff.
I think so. So this is artsy fartsy, and you sort of measure things in a certain way. I would call this movie a little more artsy than fartsy, actually. Even though it's very silly, it gets a little more, I think, more high-minded. And there are people who probably will watch this movie and never get what we just said. Like they might just see the silliness. And if that's the way they want to, you could still enjoy this movie totally that way, because it's totally a quirky comedy as well, with quirky characters that you'll never see anywhere else. But it does have that, I think it edges artsy over fartsy just a little bit, I would say.
I agree. I think if you really break it down, it's I would give it a little more artsy than you gave it, and it's more artsy than fartsy for sure. It's got, I think the whole thing is like abstract painting, if you will, you know what I mean? It's like a Picasso kind of thing where, and that's how I see it. So I definitely think it's more artsy than fartsy, but I do agree with you where people can just watch it based on face value and enjoy it as a regular movie. But if you do dig and layer and peel the layers back, you're going to be pleasantly surprised, because I think it's a very positive film overall.
Absolutely. So we have reviewed that, and I'd like to also say everybody should watch this with a nice cold can of Jump orange soda, the official soda of the Waponi Woo. Okay, that's Artsy Foxy, everybody. All right.
Now I'm going to move from some crackers and cheese.
Well, that's only for geniuses like me and John Patrick Shanley. Maybe I'll introduce you one day if you bring the cheese.
Yeah, spicy cheese. Yes.
Yeah, it's funny. There's a man eating cheese, and I was cutting the cheese. So, just the same level of genius. I could also tell you real quick, I don't even know if I'm going to include this. So we shot all, if you ever saw the movie Doubt, it's about a priest, and there's several different homilies that he does. If you know Catholicism, I don't know if you were raised Catholic. I was.
I was too, yeah.
Okay, so then the homily right after the reading of the Bible, there's the homilies where the priest just talks about life and analyzes things and stuff like that to the church. So we shot all those that go throughout the movie. We shot it all at once. throughout a whole long day. And so there was this one time where Philip Seymour Hoffman was, he always had different vestments on. He had a change for different days and stuff. So one day he's coming down, one take, he's coming down the aisle. And I guess he was raised Catholic too, because I gave him one of those things you say at the end of a Catholic mass. I saw him, I said, "Go in peace to love and serve the Lord." And he went.
The late, great Patrick Seymour.
And Philip Seymour, Patrick Seymour.
That's, Phillips. Oh, yeah, sorry.
That was his brother. Anyway, this is Artsy Fonts, everybody. All right. Why is my heart marooned without you? Da 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 dee, da 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 da. And it's a movie that ends with the end, which I love things like that when they end like that.
Yes, old school.
Well,
yes.
No, I think it ends with "and they lived happily ever after." We got to look that up. It's one or the other. I'm going to edit out the wrong one and put the right one in. Okay, that's it.
Very good.
You're sick in the head.